It's such a beautiful joy to be together with the Indian Yoga Association for this very, very special 21 days just leading up to International Yoga Day, dedicated to the yoginis, yogacharinis of our yogic tradition. Means the beautiful women, the Shaktis, those who are channeling, living, teaching, sharing, spreading yoga. And there are so many. But as we are here on the banks of Mother Ganga, I want to share with you all, for me in my life, the power of Ma Ganga, of this goddess Ganga, how she brought real yoga into my life, and how through her blessings and her grace and her inspiration and teachings, we can actually not only do yoga on our mats, but we can actually live yoga, feeling yoga, being yoga, sharing yoga. When I first came to India, back in 1996, at the age of 25, I was a yoga student. I was a PhD student. I was a very, very staunch academic. I had graduated from Stanford University undergrad, and I was then doing a PhD in psychology. And I mention this because when you are a hardcore academic, and especially 30 plus years ago, long before the days of iPads and laptops, we used to carry big, big book bags. And so I used to carry on my shoulders big bags filled with notebooks and textbooks. And of course, it was not considered cool to use like a proper backpack with padding. So we would just sling it over one shoulder. And so by the time I was in my late teens, early 20s, I already had aching shoulders and aching necks and an aching back. But I also was struggling a lot emotionally with depression, with anxiety, with so much that I was struggling with. And I discovered yoga, Iyengar yoga, in fact, as a beautiful, beautiful way of treating not just my body, not just my back and my neck and my shoulders, but actually my mind and my emotions. It had never occurred to me that doing physical postures would actually cure my mind of the depression, of the negative thought patterns, of the anxiety, of the struggles that I was having. But it actually did. And so I was already somebody who loved yoga. But for me, yoga was what I did on the mat. It was different types of asanas, different types of physical postures, some pranayam. When I came to India and I came to Rishikesh, and that too just with a backpack, not knowing I was going to stay, but on an adventure with just a semester off of my PhD program. Standing on the banks of Mother Ganga, I was gifted with an experience of transformation and awakening and divine connection that changed my life. And I knew that I was meant to stay here. And I mention this because from Ganga's grace that held me, that kept me here, that brought me then to Paramarth Nikatan, that brought me to my guru, His Holiness Pujaswami Chidananda Saraswati Ji. What I learned right from the beginning, both through Pujaswami Ji's direct teachings, as well as from that which I just absorbed from sitting on Ma Ganga's banks and watching her, was the way that yoga actually impacts every aspect of our life. So, yoga, we know, means union. But most of us sadly think about it as a union of our nose to our knees or our fingers to our toes. But ultimately, it's that union of this individual self that we call Jivatma with the Supreme Self, Paramatma, the divine. And for me, and I know that this is true for a lot of you, the idea that I was one with God, it never had occurred to me. And if somebody had said it, I never would have believed it. Because I identified so fully with my body, with my story, with all of the ways that I felt that I was lacking in my body, in what I looked like, in my abilities, in all of the ways. I always felt like I'm not beautiful enough, not smart enough, not good enough, not worthy enough. And I always felt very separate from God in that way. But being on the banks of Ma Ganga, I had this awareness, this experience, this realization that that presence of the divine actually is in all of us and in me as well. And this is true for all of you. That yogic union is the very truth of who you are. We think about it when we think about Patanjali's 8 limbs of yoga, that we begin with yama niyam, we move up through asana and pranayama and pratyahara and dharana and dhyan and ultimately to samadhi. And that's true. But remember and realize also that that samadhi, that union, that oneness, that's who you are. It's not 8 limbs like you're moving on a ladder up into outer space or up into the akash, into the sky, or to the top of some tree. You're actually moving deeper and deeper and deeper into the truth of you. The ultimate yogic union is the truth of who you are, which means right here, right now, if we could free ourselves of the illusion, of the ignorance, of the ego, of the vasanas, of all of the ways that we get stuck, we would have that. So that's who you are. Remember and realize it's not about going somewhere. It's about remembering, reuniting. It's not a union like a first-time union. It's a reunion with yourself. Living on Ganga also is such a beautiful, beautiful teacher because Ganga flows 2,500 kilometers from Gomukh out to Ganga Sagar. But even just here in the Swargashram area of Rishikesh, where Parmarth Niketan is, there's so many ways of getting into Ganga. Ganga is the liberator, the giver of moksha, the one who removes all of that ignorance that blocks us from moksha, from living in that realization. And yet, doesn't matter how you get in. So if you want to go into Ganga down the marble steps of Parmarth Niketan, beautiful. You want to go into Ganga by a sandy beach up at Ramjula, wonderful. You want to walk up to Lakshman Jula and jump off of a rock into Ganga? Beautiful. Ganga doesn't care. Ganga is not giving more blessings or more moksha or more freedom to people who go in a certain way than to people who go in other ways. And this is really important because when we do yoga, a lot of us tend to get stuck in my way is the best way. This school of yoga, this path of yoga, this is the best. And all you have to do is look at Ganga and remember, oh yeah, it doesn't matter how you get in. Just get in, dubki lagao, have a bath, however you get in.